Away from Central Africa, Human Rights Day is celebrated across the world on December 10th every year. It commemorates the day the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Human Rights Day focuses on the fundamental rights and freedoms that people globally are entitled to simply by virtue of being human beings. It celebrates and advocates for rights that cut across the distincts of nationality, gender, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, religion, or any other status. This year marks the 74th anniversary of the adoption of the UDHR and the 72nd Human Rights Day. The campaign this year will be centered around the theme Dignity, Freedom, and Justice for All. Joining us on the news is Deji Ajari, the Executive Director, Sterling Law. Thank you for joining us, Deji.
Thank you so much for having me. Good
Oh,
afternoon.
all right, let's get to it. Now, violence is one of the problems confronting human rights organizations. How well can human rights defenders be protected and encouraged to do their job without fear of becoming victims of conflict and violence?
Yes, totally agree with you. Violence has been one of the major problems facing human rights defenders, not just in Africa, but across the world. The threat of violence and actual violence against human rights defenders. Unfortunately, there appears to be no end in sight to this cycle of violence, as those who put themselves out as as protecting and advocating for the respect for rights and for the protection of victims are put in harm's way by those who are supposed to protect the rights. And most of the people who actually do this are either security or law enforcement agents across the world. It's quite a big problem. Unfortunately, those who can also correct this are those who are empowered by, and essentially governments, those who are empowered with
All
the
right.
duty to protect people across the world. What, however, we must remember in all of this is that at the end of the day, unless the people are conscientized and educated, and the people persist and demand for actions for their government, it will not happen. So the people factor in all of this is very, very important.
All right,
The
just to pick
citizen.
up from there, Deji, do you consider achieving equal human rights, which is meant to actually improve global economy significantly, an impossible task considering the discrimination as well as the poverty rate in some African societies?
Well, you see, when we talk about inequality, you will realize that the inequalities that we're talking about, there's an intersectionality that is pronounced in Africa. Now, whether as to the question directly, whether it is impossible to achieve equality, I think it is possible to achieve equality because clearly all humans are born equal, and they are born with, these inalienable rights. So whether we can achieve it or not, yes, we can. It is the human factor. It is the human desire not to allow for others to enjoy these rights that is essentially the meditating factor. And so I think it is possible if we consciously and positively start putting things in place to ensure that people enjoy rights equally and people are treated equally at all times, taking into cognizance the intersectionality of these rights. So, for instance, where you have a woman in Africa, for instance, you also know that, okay, and then she's poor. You know
All
that
right, Deji, I want to quickly interject and ask you just one question before we let you go. What has been the success rate in defending the rights of the lower class in society?
Ah, well, well, I think there are significant achievements in that regard, but we must not also rest on our ours. There's quite a lot that still needs to be done because, like I told someone earlier today, as the fight for the protection of some rights are succeeding, new vistas for violation of these rights are also opening for those who desire to violate those rights. So yes, there are small wins, there are steady progresses that are being made, but then there's still quite a lot to do, to be done.
All right, Deji, thank you so much for your time.